I wanted to throw this little video together to give you a little bit of my context, my story, share a little bit to why I got into personal development in the first place. Obviously, there are many motivators. I think my curiosity about personal development first began when I noticed that my sister was way more introverted than me, and when I was growing up, I didn't know what being an introvert actually meant. At that point, I tried to push her to be more extroverted. I tried to push her to have more friends, and I pushed her to live a more extroverted life. And as a result, I ended up draining her, stressing her more, and she felt that she couldn't be herself around me. And it took me a little time to kind of study and learn and research and accept and embrace the idea that, oh, what I'm seeing is her personality, so she needs different things than what I need. Because I think most of us go through life wanting to share the things that worked for us. And I wanted to share all the things that made me happier, but it took me a while to learn that what makes me happy doesn't necessarily make other people happy. And I took a little time to research. I studied many different things: personality psychology, personality theory. And little by little, I obviously started becoming fascinated by this idea that we're all wired differently, that we all have different needs, that we all have different contexts. And I really got deep into personal development when I started seeing and acknowledging my insecurities, my fears. For a long time, I didn't face them because I always was the extrovert in the family. I was the charming one, the charismatic one. Socially, I was the entertainer, you know. And it took me a long time to admit to myself that I have a lot of insecurities. Just because I'm an extrovert, it doesn't make me immune to shyness and fear of rejection and fear of judgment and imposter syndrome and social anxiety. I mean, as an extrovert, it was very hard to face the fact that I have a lot of social anxieties, and I do. Much less now than before. And I say I do, despite now, being a creator of a personal development system. I say I do because everyone has fears. I don't think anyone truly is fearless. I think people with experience, with certain tools, with certain exercises, can learn to overcome a lot of irrational fears and can learn to give less power to their fear and more power to their goals. I think that's one of the things I've gotten very good at. I've eliminated many, many fears, but I still have many fears, and I think that's okay. I think that a healthy dose of self-awareness is required to admit that even when you're in a position of leadership, even when you're in a position of influence, you have to admit your fears and anxieties. And my personal development journey certainly catapulted to a whole other level when I started admitting to myself, I have a problem. And it was such a big problem that I think I started dating like 2021. People are surprised when they hear this because they see my social skills in a non-romantic setting. And they go, oh, he's got it all. He's confident, he's charismatic, he's extroverted. But you should have seen me when I was a teenager. I friend-zoned myself all the time. I rejected myself all the time. I thought that no one would ever like me or be interested in me, that any advance or any expression of desire or interest would be dismissed, would not be received. And a lot of this stems from the fact that I moved around a lot. I moved a lot. Growing up, I was always the foreigner. I was always the outsider. And it meant that I was bullied a lot. I was never really fully integrated into any social group. I would create my own little social groups of kind of nerds and misfits in many cases. But I always was treated as an outsider. And I think there came a point where whenever I got to a new place, I was expecting someone to pull a prank on me. I remember when I moved to Canada, there were people who meant very well and invited me to different things. And I was like just waiting. When are they going to prank me? When are they going to do something mean to me? And there were so many different voices, so many different things that happened that there came a point where I had lost my own voice. I had lost my own opinions. I had lost my ability to express myself. I could be charming at a party when it was not a romantic setting, but when it came to expressing my desires and my interests romantically, I couldn't. When it came to expressing my opinions and things, it was very, very hard. And I started losing my voice. And you have to understand, my context as an extrovert, people assume that it would be easy for me to share things, easy for me to romantically express myself or sexually express myself. And it was a big process for me to face those fears. And it took me many years of facing those fears and being able to live a healthy, romantic, and professional life. I mean, in all areas of my life, I started rejecting myself. And now, years later, I've certainly developed many tools, many different tricks, many different things to overcome my fears and anxieties. And for many years, I had too much imposter syndrome to share them with the world because I felt no one would listen to me. I'm a college dropout. I didn't study psychology. I've had more businesses fail than succeed. Who would listen to me? And it wasn't until I started a business with a very extroverted friend and a very introverted friend, and I was somewhere in the middle. Even though I am more extroverted, I am an extrovert-leaning ambivert, so I'm at a middle point. And there were conflicts every single day. There were so conflicting work processes, instincts, desires, priorities, just based on their personalities. And it took me a long time to be able to kind of create harmony in that environment. And I did it by implementing personality psychology, personality theory, understanding that we all have different contexts and respecting and valuing those instead of trying to impose a one-size-fits-all solution. And I made mistakes. I made mistakes as a leader. I certainly imposed many things that I had read. I had read in books. Do it this way, do it that way. Bill Gates did this. Steve Jobs did this. Mark Zuckerberg did this. So if it worked for them, it should work for us. And newsflash for you, it didn't. And it was when I started embracing the fact we have our own dynamic, our own context, our own goals, our own vision. How can we do it that works for us, that honors the different members of the team? And when we did that, that changed a lot. But it didn't just change our professional lives. It changed our personal lives too. And it led to much more confidence in many areas of my personal life, but also in many members of the team. They saw their lives transform. And that's where something changed in me, and it became bigger than me. Sharing this with the world became bigger than me. And despite my fears, despite my insecurities, despite the worry of people rejecting me or considering me an imposter, I was like, if this just can help one person, it's worth it. If this can change someone's life, give someone more confidence to be themselves, but to also connect with other people and understand other people, embrace those differences, embrace the different personalities, different contexts, then it's worth it. And that's when I started sharing this with the world. And it took me a while to share it with a loud voice. I started whispering, and little by little I found my voice. And that's the basics. That's how I got started, and that's what motivated me to be here today in front of this camera, sharing with you my story. And hopefully my story can inspire someone else.